Now, I'll tell you something even more frightening when we were working this out, because it's associated with this trait called orderliness, which is actually a good predictor of right-wing political belief. I went back and looked at Hitler's Table Talk. It's a book, Hitler's Table Talk, and he wrote that. It was derived from notes that were taken by his secretaries between 1939 and 1942 when he was eating dinner and spontaneously expounding on the structure of reality. He was very open, Hitler, very creative person, but also extremely orderly. And I looked at the metaphors that he was using to describe the Jews and the gypsies and all the other people that he burned and destroyed, and it was all pathogen. It's all pathogen metaphor. The Aryan race is a body, it's a pure body, the blood is pure, the Jews are rats or insects or lice or disease, and so are the gypsies and everyone else, and they need to be eradicated and burned out, essentially. And here's
Jordan B. Peterson, sock puppet extraordinaire, gave the impression with what he said on the Joe Rogan podcast that Hitler wanted to cleanse the Jews, gypsies, and everyone else. What does that even mean? But it does give the impression that Hitler and the National Socialist movement wanted to get rid of all non-Europeans, or perhaps even Germans. This is something that is predominant in many people's minds in the West, that the Nazis wanted to get rid of all races apart from their own, which is just as mad as them wanting to force the German language on the British Isles, which is still a commonly thrown about saying. God knows where it came from, but people say it all the time. Thank God we're not speaking German. I will start off with a quote. German racialism meant rediscovering the creative values of their own race, rediscovering their culture. It was a search for excellence, a noble ideal. National Socialist racialism was not against the other races. It was for its own race. It aimed at defending and improving its race, and wished that all other races did the same for themselves. That was demonstrated when the Waffen-SS enlarged its ranks to include 60,000 Islamic SS. The Waffen-SS respected their way of life, their customs, and their religious beliefs. Each Islamic SS battalion had an imam, each company had a mullah. It was our common wish that their qualities found their highest expression. This was our racialism. I was present when each of my Islamic comrades received a personal gift from Hitler during the New Year. It was a pendant with a small Quran. Hitler was honoring them with this small symbolic gift. He was honoring them with what was most important aspect of their lives and their history. National Socialist racialism was loyal to the German race and totally respected all other races. Leon Degrelle. From the story of the Waffen-SS, a lecture given in 1982. To counter the inconvenient truths that have crept out in the last few years regarding the many non-Europeans that fought for Hitler, many actually defending Berlin as the Red Army closed in, the notion that the Nazis used these non-Europeans out of desperation rather than any sense of altruism, and that any non-European were deemed Untermensch, or according to them, subhuman, which is incorrect in itself. More like underman. The antithesis of Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, or the overman or superman, which was a completely philosophical, metaphysical notion, nothing to do with race. And the SS manual, named Der Untermensch, has a fat European man on its cover, which totally dispels any notion that they ever meant Untermensch in terms of race, but more in terms of character, of man, of inner strength. This Ken magazine article from March 23rd, 1939 reminds us that Germany actually had its own empire before the Versailles Treaty, and its racial laws were a lot more pragmatic than they are made out to be by the mainstream media, academia, and just the establishment.
International head of state snubbed Jesse Owens after his triumph at the 1936 Olympics.
Oh, go on.
Yes, yeah.
Hitler.
Oddly enough, it's not true. It's what the whole world thinks, but it isn't true. And we know this from no greater source than Jesse Owens himself. In fact, it's a really rather sad and a very typically fairly unfortunate story. Jesse Owens, as you probably know, won 4 gold medals at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. The Olympics were stage managed, of course, by Hitler. Now, on the first day, Hitler congratulated only German winners. And someone said to him that he should either congratulate all the winners or none of them. So he said, well, in that case, I won't congratulate any winners. So as it happens, he didn't personally congratulate. He didn't
dig during the Berlin Olympics in 1936.
Der 11. Olympiade neuer Zeitrechnung als eröffnet.
That was Herr Hitler announcing it open. Now they're all cheering him, and the whole crowd have raised their right arm.
The great event, of course, was the wonderful Jesse Owens. Here was a man who won 100 meters and 200 meters, the long jump, and the 4x100 meter relay. 4 gold medals, not exactly what Hitler with his Aryan ideals had wanted. I've read many stories that said Hitler ignored him. Now this is quite untrue, because I actually witnessed Hitler shaking hands with Jesse Owens and congratulating him on what he had achieved.